Every summer, the island of Sodor is very busy. Holidaymakers love to sightsee, and when the weather is fine, there is no better place to visit. Some people like to go to the mountains, others like the valleys. Children love the seaside. One morning, Thomas was puffing along the line that runs by the coast. His two coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, were packed with children going to the beach. Everyone was happy. Percy was taking some trucks to the harbour. "Hello, Thomas. You look cheerful. I wish I could take children today instead of trucks." "They're the Vicar's Sunday School," explained Thomas. "I'm busy this evening, but the station master says I can ask you to take the children home." "Of course I will," promised Percy. Later, Percy saw Harold. "Sorry, Percy, can't talk. I'm on high alert." "Why?" "Bad weather's due. My help's always needed. Mind how you go, Percy." "Ah, off, Percy. As long as I've got rails to run on, I can go anywhere in any weather anyhow. Goodbye." He set off for the beach. It was a beautiful day, but Edward was worried. "Be careful," he warned. "There's a storm coming." "A promise is a promise," thought Percy, no matter what the weather. The children had a lovely day, but by tea time, dark clouds loomed ahead. Annie and Clarabelle were glad when Percy arrived. He was just in time. Rain streamed down Percy's boiler. Oh, he shivered and thought of his nice dry shed. Percy struggled on past coastal villages and into the countryside. The river was rising fast. "I wish I could see, complained Percy, as he battled against the rain. More trouble lay ahead. "Oh," hissed Percy, "the water is sloshing my fire." Percy's driver and fireman had to find some more firewood. "I'll have some of your floorboards, please," said the fireman to the guard. "I only swept the floor this morning," grumbled the guard, but he still helped. Soon, Percy's fire was burning well. He felt warm and comfortable again. Then he saw Harold. "Oh dear," thought Percy. "Harold's come to laugh at me." Something thudded onto Percy's boiler. "Ow!" exclaimed Percy. "He needn't throw things." "It's a parachute," laughed his driver. "Harold's dropping hot drinks for us." "Thank you, Harold," whistled Percy. "Good to be of service," replied Harold, and he buzzed away. The water lapped Percy's wheels. Percy was losing steam again, but he plunged bravely on. "I promised," he panted. "I promised." He made one more big effort, and at last, exhausted but triumphant, he brought the train home. "Well done, Percy," cheered Thomas. "You kept your promise despite everything." The Fat Controller arrived in Harold. First he thanked the men, then Percy. "Harold told me you were a wizard. He says he can beat you at some things, but not at being a submarine. I don't know what you two get up to sometimes, but I do know that you're a really useful engine." "Oh, sir," whispered Percy happily. Percy was working in the coal mines. He was feeling bored and lonely with only the silly trucks for company.
Cheer up, Percy, said his driver. The Fat Controller has told me that we must be here again tomorrow. We've just got to make the best of a bad situation. I'll try, sir, sighed Percy. Next morning, Percy puffed back to the coal mines. When he arrived, the truck started teasing him.
Percy, Percy, green and small, he's no use to us at all. Around the yards he'll puff and blow, but on the hills he's oh so slow. Be quiet!
Then he took the trucks to the coal hopper to be loaded up. Percy still felt glum, but said nothing as he puffed up the steep incline to the yards at the top of the hill. He parked his trucks and then set off back down to the mines. Not even the cheerful sight of Bertie the bus could bring a smile to Percy's face. "What's the matter, Percy?" asked Bertie. "Nothing exciting ever happens, that's the matter," sighed Percy. "It's just coal, 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 and trucks, trucks, trucks. I'm bored, bored, bored." "Excitement is surprising," observed Bertie. "You never know when it'll happen. Otherwise it wouldn't be exciting. Toodle-peep." "It would be surprising if something surprising happened," muttered Percy. Later, he stopped by the water tower for a drink. "Hello, Percy, how are things?" asked Toby. "Boring," replied Percy. "Well, why not have a few fast spins on the turntable?" "You like that," said Toby. "I think I just feel giddy." Percy's driver interrupted. "Stop gossiping, you two. Cheer up, Percy, you'll soon know more about trucks than any other engine. That'll be exciting," called Toby. The trucks were still grumbling, and there was more of them than ever. "You're much too small to pull all of us. We want another engine or we'll be struggling up the hill all night." "All night, all right, you can puff and blow. But on that hill you're still too slow." Slow yourself," stuttered Percy. "Temper, temper," giggled the trucks. Percy decided just to carry on. "Go to it, Percy," shouted the driver as they started to climb the hill. The trucks were still joking. "Too slow, more power, here all night, tomorrow too." "Be quiet," said Percy angrily. Then there was trouble. A coupling broke. "Surprise, surprise, catch us if you can." "Oh, no!" cried Percy. Percy's driver told the signalman, and the yard foreman told the Fat Controller what was happening. "They're heading for the big hill. It'll slow them down, but they may roll back again, right into the village," said the foreman. "Then we'll just have to stop them, won't we?" said Sir Topham Hatt firmly. The chase was on. As they approached the hill, they overtook the trucks. The Fat Controller and Bertie screeched to a halt and waited for them near the top. The hill slowed the trucks right down to a standstill. Then the men quickly put wooden blocks behind their wheels so they couldn't roll backwards. The trucks were now secured. Just then, Percy arrived. "Well, what did you think of that?" joked Bertie. "A good chase is always exciting." "It certainly was a surprise," decided Percy. "And you were right, Bertie. A really useful engine should never be surprised by surprise." The Fat Controller's engines love being shiny and clean. It makes them feel cheerful as they puff across the island of Sodor. Percy often has the dirtiest work to do, but he likes to be clean as well as any other engine. So washdowns are important to Percy. But the Fat Controller had bad news. Due to a water shortage, he said, no engine shall have more than one washdown a day. Usefulness before cleanliness, he added, and left. Percy was upset. I get dirty, he complained. I need washdowns. Gordon only does it to feel important. I am important, Gordon sniffed. I'm an express engine. You're a pouty puffer, Percy, teased James. No, I'm not, wheezed Percy, and he chuffed away. Percy was loading trucks at the docks. He was trying extra hard to stay clean, but the troublesome trucks were being naughty. As Percy pushed them under the coal chute, they sang out. On, they cried. Percy found himself under the chute, and coal dust flew everywhere. Oh, no, coughed Percy. I'm filthy. Percy felt awful, but he knew he had to carry on. On the way to Callan Station, the troublesome trucks teased Percy even more. Clickety-clack! Don't look back! Dirty Percy's on our track! Be quiet! Percy snapped. When Percy arrived at Callan Station, he was very upset. From now on, I'm only doing work where I won't get dirty, he said. Harold the helicopter was at Callan Station picking up medical supplies. Hello, Percy, he called. And he took off, blowing cinders and ashes everywhere. Not again, Percy cried. I want a washdown. Usefulness before cleanliness, reminded his driver. I want to be useful where I can't get dirty, Percy huffed. There's a load of sugar going to the chocolate factory, his driver said. We could take the sugar trucks. Sugar, said Percy. That's nice and clean. Percy was pleased. Percy didn't know that earlier a leaky truck had spilled oil on the track. When he approached the chocolate factory, his driver applied the brakes, but Percy's wheels just skidded on the oily rails. Oh no! hooted Percy. Yuck! He groaned. I've never been this dirty. He was covered from funnel to firebox in sticky, gooey chocolate. Back at the sheds, everyone thought it was very funny. You look good enough to eat, Thomas hooted. Pudding, Percy, teased James. Chalk ice on wheels, chipped in Henry. Disgraceful, said Gordon pompously. Ahem, said a stern-sounding voice. It was the Fat Controller. You have had a trying day, Percy, he said. Yes, sir, replied Percy from beneath the chocolate. But you've shown us all that usefulness does come before cleanliness. So, he added, you shall have your washdown. Oh, sir. And a new coat of paint. Percy just beamed. It was an icy day on the island of Sodor. The engines were working very hard. They didn't mind the cold because they had toasting hot fireboxes to keep them warm. That evening, the Fat Controller came to the sheds. There's a big freeze coming tonight, he said. James and Percy are to deliver extra coal to the stations. Yes, sir, they said eagerly, and the Fat Controller drove away. "You'd better hurry," teased Thomas, "or Scary Jack Frost might get you." "Who's Jack Frost?" Percy whistled nervously. "Don't be silly," sniffed James. "Jack Frost is not scary." "Yes, he is," teased Thomas. "He's all white with a big spiky face." "Rubbish," said James. James knew Jack Frost wasn't scary, but poor Percy wasn't so sure. Percy shivered. "Jack Frost is not scary. Jack Frost is not scary. Jack Frost is not scary." Meanwhile, James puffed along his route. "Silly Percy," he thought. "All steamed up over Jack Frost." Percy made his last delivery. The station master was very pleased to see him. "Oh, Percy," he cried, "we need twice as much coal to last through this freeze." "Don't worry," Percy said. "This is my last stop. You can have mine." So Percy's driver parked him in a siding with only a lantern for company. "Do you think Scary Jack Frost will find me?" said Percy. "Jack Frost's not scary," chuckled his driver, "and don't worry, Elizabeth will bring you some more coal in the morning." And then his driver and fireman went home to bed. Late at night, the icy wind howled. It started to snow. Soon, Percy's face was so cold an icicle hung from his nose. "Oh, bother," Percy stuttered, but it didn't sound like Percy. It was so cold he could hardly make a sound. At last, James was on his way back to the sheds. In the fog, he saw shadows and strange and scary shapes. "Scary Jack Frost," he whispered nervously. "Pah!" "Hello, James," muttered Percy icily. "Scary Jack Frost!" cried James, and he raced away as fast as his wheels could carry him. He didn't stop until he got back to the sheds. The next morning, Elizabeth brought plenty of coal. "Oh, my dear," Elizabeth chuffed to Percy, "it looks like Jack Frost really got you then." The firelighter started Percy's fire. Soon his ice mask melted away. "So Scary Jack Frost is only frost," tooted Percy happily. And soon he was as warm as toast. When Percy arrived at the sheds, James was bragging to the other engines. "I saw Scary Jack Frost last night," James huffed. "He even knows my name." "He also knows that you ran away," teased Percy. And all the engines whistled, including James. But Percy's was the loudest whistle of all.
At night, when the other engines are tucked away in their sheds, you can still hear the faraway call of an engine's whistle and the clickety-clack of train wheels turning. This is the sound of the post train. One train is pulled by Thomas and the other by Percy, as the loads are too heavy for one engine to do the work alone. The post is loaded into trucks at both the harbours, and the engines pull their trains through the silent stations, delivering their precious loads. On a clear night, a big shiny moon brightens their journey, but often Thomas and Percy can't even see the stars. But whatever the weather, lamps along the track always light their way. One night, Percy was waiting at the junction. The main line train was late. At last, Henry arrived. Sorry, he puffed. The mail boat from the mainland was delayed. Come on, Percy, said his driver. Let's make up for lost time. Percy puffed along as quickly as he could, but the sun was already rising as he finished his work. Never mind, thought Percy. It's nice to be up and about when it's the start of a new day and there's no one else around. Percy was not alone for long. Bother, said Percy. It's that dizzy thing, Harold. Good morning, whirred Harold. I always said railways were out of date, but you're so slow with the post, you should give everyone their stamps back. Post haste. Percy was too tired to explain. Bird brain, he muttered. Good morning, Percy, called Duck. You're up early. No, you're wrong, sighed Percy. I'm back, tired and late. He rolled into the shed and fell asleep almost before his buffers touched the bar. His driver decided to set off early that evening. Thomas was waiting at the station. Thank goodness I've a chance to speak to you. Driver said that the person in charge of the post has complained to the Fat Controller about the delay last night. But that wasn't my fault, replied Percy. I know, said Thomas, and so does the Fat Controller, but this post person wouldn't listen. Tonight we'll just have to be quicker than ever before. The engines were just leaving the station when they heard a familiar buzzing. I say, you two, there's news flying about. Where? Puffed Percy. All over the place. They're going to scrap the post train and use me instead. Wings work wonders, you know, always. Rubbish, huffed Thomas. That night, everything ran like clockwork. Thomas and Percy steamed through the stations, making good time everywhere they went. At a station, Thomas noticed a man looking cold and worried. He had missed his train home. We can give you a ride, said Thomas's driver, but it will be rather uncomfortable. Thank you, said the man. Anything's better than sitting here. The next afternoon, Percy passed the airfield and saw Harold. Hello, Lazy Wings. Are you too tired to fly today? The wind's too strong. I've been grounded, grumbled Harold. You need rails, laughed Percy. They work wonders, you know. Always. That night, the Fat Controller showed the two engines a letter. It was from the man who had missed his train. He thinks you are both splendid, said the Fat Controller, and everyone says that the post train is the pride of the line.